Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kirsten Hunter. I am the Director of Lifespan Ministry here at South Church, and I serve in co-leadership with Reverend Ellen Quaadgras and in co-ministry with all of you. Welcome. Welcome to those of you who are new and just getting to know our community, and those of you who come as often as you can. And a special welcome to those of you who are joining us online. Please consider opening the live chat feature and saying good morning. We'd love to hear from you. This month, as we reflect on the theme of transformation, let us acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we gather today. The Abenaki and the Pennacook people, a people for whom justice and self-determination has long been withheld. Our hope is that recognizing this each week allows us to stay alert to the need for further action towards transformative justice for Indigenous people here in New England and across the globe, as well as lasting change to our relationship with our Mother Earth herself. We had a guest in the pulpit last week who offered some beautiful music in collaboration with Jonny and our incredible choir. There was so much joy and energy in that service, but after hearing the message he offered, I just want to clarify something about the theology of this congregation. We are a community that celebrates pluralism and thrives on the many sources of wisdom that space invites. We are theists and atheists, pagan, humanist, Buddhist, Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Christian, agnostic, and more. There is not one single way to describe the many theological perspectives contained within this community. And that is something that we cherish. However you personally describe your own search for truth and meaning, know that you are welcome here and that we are richer because of your presence and your perspective. I encourage each of you to take a look at your order of service for details about today's worship and everything happening in our community. Leading worship with me today is Worship Associate Hilary Clark. Music will be offered by Susan Adams, our pianist, and Jonny Peiffer, our Director of Music Ministry, and Reverend Ellen will be offering the Time for All Ages, and Ben Abbott is just rocking it back there doing tech and video for us today. After the Time for All Ages this morning, all young people are invited to attend our religious education classes downstairs in the company of Jen Del Deo Berry and a fantastic team of RE volunteers. Parents, please walk your young ones down and get them signed in before coming back up here to us. And finally, everyone of every age is invited to join us in the fellowship hall after service for coffee, treats, and conversations. Ellen offers you all a question of the day often, so here's one for today. What is something which once you saw it, you could not unsee? We have assisted listening devices, large print hymnals in the back of the sanctuary, right back in the corner. Please ask an usher if you need assistance. Please take a minute and silence your cell phones. And now for some announcements.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. Announcements this morning. Many of the wonderful activities and opportunities for growth and service and meaning making are in your order of service, and I encourage you to take a look. And we will be highlighting a few of them this morning. I'd like to begin with Juliet and Ivy, who will share about what the youth group is doing downstairs.
Hi guys, we're from the senior youth here, and after the service we'll be having a fair trade sale. There's going to be chocolate and tea and coffee and also eclipse glasses for the coming eclipse, and all of the proceeds are going to go to our trip to New Mexico this summer.
Thank you so much. Also, the Community Action Team has organized a postcard writing campaign for ceasefire in Gaza. So if you've been wondering what you can do, how you can help stop the terrible unfolding tragedy there, that is one thing you can do. I encourage you to take steps downstairs to visit that table. There will be a spring equinox vespers in the sanctuary here on Thursday, March 21st at 6 p.m. It promises to be a beautiful service. It says in the order of service that you should bring a mask and masks will be available, but it is mask optional. So know that. Fun times on March 23rd, Barbie movie night. This coming Saturday, that is the Fellowship Associates who will be hosting that for us. So that will be a wonderful opportunity to watch the movie for the first time or again. And there will be a Social Justice Associates open house during social hour today in the Carson Parlor. It's a wonderful opportunity to get to know what that group is doing and see if perhaps you might want to be a Social Justice Associate, because our programs, our associate programs, there are 5 of them, are now open and looking for people who are interested in being part of these core ministries of our church. And in fact, today you will also be hearing momentarily, right now actually, from 2 members of our Pastoral Associates team. Carlo Nittoli and Terry Karnan will share a little bit about what it's like to be a pastoral associate and why you might want to consider that path for yourself.
Good morning. I'm Terry Karnan, and this is Carlo Nittoli. So we're here to talk about Pastoral Associates. And when I started to think about why I signed up, I stopped to calculate that I have actually been a member of this church for over 40 years. So needless to say, the church is very close to the fabric of my heart. And the reason I joined the Pastoral Associates for the second time was because I want to give back. I want to make a contribution to this place that's been so much a part of my life for so long, is still. So I think the Pastoral Associates, to me, are like the center of our community. And what we do is to try to organize a response when one of us needs help, a neighborly kind of thing that you would do if you only knew, but with the number of people we have spread over the area, we don't always know what an individual needs. So we meet once a month and we go over the requests for help, and we organize a response, and then we reach out to the wider network of care to help us to put that in action. So I think the Pastoral Associates could be a little bit of an intimidating title of what we do. We might be known as the Good Neighbor Associates. So, because you don't actually need training in the ministry to be a member. What we do largely is, as Carlo will note, is send out cards, give rides, that sort of thing. And Reverend Ellen comes to our meetings and gives us support and expertise as needed. So at this time, believe it or not, we'd especially welcome someone with some technical know-how. We use the computer to keep records and to contact one another, and sometimes we get mixed up. So if any of you could help with that, that would be great. Let's see. So as I said, we meet once a month, and we have time to check in with one another so we can be of support to one another. And I found it's just any of the associate programs, really. It's just a great way to get to know people on a deeper level. And though sometimes we deal with situations that are sad or serious, I found for myself that it's so helpful to be able to do something concrete in response. It really is very rewarding. So, and I'm going to defer to Carlo, but we will be downstairs afterwards too to answer questions.
Morning. I think I have a leprechaun in my throat this morning. Terry and I are here to catch you up on the Pastoral Associates in hopes that some of you might take the plunge and join us this year. We are 8, and about a third of the congregation is in the wider network of care. Also, I'm happy to say that thanks to Jen Del Deo, we have added 2nd to 6th graders, about 18 of them, I think, in the religious education program who make cards for us. And we're hoping to expand that next year. Also, we're grateful to the knitting ministry who make prayer shawls to give us those that we give to those who are sick, grieving, and alone after a death. So I think I can say that we are connected to the whole church family. This is my 3rd time signing up as a PA, 2008, 2011, and June of 2023. You should know that I was also on the receiving end of the good work of the PAs in 2021. Too much to mention here right now, but I received over 30 cards from this congregation. So I'm grateful to have the pulpit to say thank you. Over the years, there were many wonderful experiences with folks as a pastoral associate, but I would like to tell you about what moment in time touched me the most. Years ago, Tracy Lipset and I were trying to arrange for a memorial service, and halfway through the form, the person couldn't continue. The minute or so of silence seemed like an eternity. But we returned another time when the time was right, and it was a good lesson for me. So besides meals, hospital visits, etc., rides, sometimes people just need a shoulder. So the lesson simply is the most precious gift we can give to others is our quiet presence. We do better together. Please consider the Pastoral Associates, take the plunge. Thank you.
Oh my, I didn't know what it meant to believe. Oh my, I didn't know what it meant to believe. But if I hold on tight, is it true? Would you take care of all that I do? Oh Lord, I'm getting ready to believe. Oh my, I didn't know how hard it would be. Oh my, I didn't know how hard it would be. But if I hold on tight, is it true? Would you take care of all that I do? Hold on, I'm a-getting ready to believe. Then we'll be waving hands, singing freely, singing, standing tall, now coming easy. Looking down, honey, can't you see? Oh Lord, I'm a-getting ready to believe. Then we'll be waving hands, singing freely, singing, standing tall, now coming easy. No more looking down, honey, can't you see? Oh Lord, I'm a-getting ready. Oh Lord, I'm a-getting ready. Oh Lord, I'm getting ready to believe.
As we light the chalice in the sanctuary, we invite you to light a chalice or a candle wherever you may be. We light the chalice to these words from Clarissa Pinkola Estes. It is not given to us to know which acts or by whom will cause the critical mass to tip toward an enduring good. What is needed for dramatic change is an accumulation of acts, adding to, adding more, continuing. We know that it does not take everyone on earth to bring justice and peace, but only a small, determined group who will not give up during the first, second, or 100th gale. Please rise as you are able to join us in reciting our mission statement, written in your order of service or on the screen. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people and inspire one another to act on our faith in the larger community. Thank you. I was in the waiting room at the doctor's office and I was watching their big screen TV, and there were beautiful slow motion videos up on the screen showing the evolution of life. And these days, it can be easy for me to feel anxious about the state of our beautiful earth, wildfires, droughts, floods, tornadoes. But if we allow ourselves, it is also easy to feel the joy of the sun shining on our face, like yesterday. I hope everybody got out. The sight of a double rainbow, or the courting flight of the woodcock, which should be happening soon. Almost a decade ago, I saw a TED Talk titled "For More Wonder, Rewild the World" by George, I have such trouble saying his name, Monbiot. Thank you. I have spoken about this here before, and in this month of exploring the gift of transformation, I wanted to share it again. Each time I listen to his talk, I can feel an energy built up inside of me, a kind of tingling, an expectation that we can fix this. We can heal our world. His ultimate goal in the talk was to advocate for the reintroduction of megafauna, the large predators, to Europe. But what excited me was his story of Yellowstone National Park. You see, wolves had been purposely eradicated from the park by 1925. It was something that the colonists did, and what we often do is we eliminate what we fear or what we perceive as bothersome. From our simplistic, human-centered perspective, we seem blind to the impact of our actions. We can't see how interconnected all life is, how each organism has its place in this magnificently complex ecosystem. And I want to say, Brett last week did a beautiful opening words about a puzzle box and about how that corresponds to how our ecosystem works. But in this TED Talk, Monbiot helps us to see how we can start to repair some of the damage we've done by rewilding, reintroducing species into their natural ecosystems. So in 1995, maybe some of you remember this, against much opposition, wolves were reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park. Without the wolves, Yellowstone had lost much of its biodiversity. Deer had foraged the undergrowth bare, and the banks of the rivers had eroded. Once the wolves returned, the deer learned to occupy the open spaces and avoid the valleys and gorges where they could be trapped by the wolves. This allowed the willows and aspen to grow again, and other trees began to grow. And once the trees returned, the migrating birds returned. Beavers eat aspen and willow, so they returned. They made their dams, creating new areas for other creatures like otters, muskrats, ducks, reptiles, and amphibians. In addition to preying on some deer, wolves also preyed on the coyotes. With fewer coyotes, the rodents and hares returned. In their wake came the raptors, hawks, eagles, small land predators like weasel, fox, and badgers. Bears returned to eat the berries and the carrion. The riverbanks stabilized with the new forests, the channels narrowed, erosion stops, pools formed. And the thing is, we can do this. We can do this again and again. We can assist or allow the wisdom of the natural world to flourish without our trying to always shape it and tame it. We can recognize that every part of an ecosystem is essential to its health and well-being, to our health and well-being. Rewilding gives us hope that the silent spring can be replaced by a raucous summer. May it be so. Please rise as you are able and join us in singing the opening hymn, number 163, For the Earth Forever Turning.
It is time for our time for all ages. So I would like to invite anyone of any age who would like to come forward and get a closer look at some of the props I brought with me. Feel free. Anyone of any age, especially those of our younger generations, but anyone who's got that spirit in their heart, come on forward. Yeah, and as you're coming, I'll just say, I like to say where my stories and things come from. This one came out of a chat with Kirsten and a chat with some colleagues and a chat with ChatGPT, and a chat with myself and a chat with my own garden. So there's a lot in this. Speaking of there being a lot in things, so here's one of my props. Can any of you tell me what this is? Yeah, Zoe. Soil, she says. Okay, anyone else? That's a good guess. Anyone else want to say what they think this is? Yeah. Dirt. Yeah, dirt. It's also a really good guess. Anyone else want to take a guess of what this is? Yeah.
Compost.
It's almost like I planted you there, literally, so to speak. Yes, in fact, it is compost. It is compost. You're going to get to maybe answer another question in a moment. So compost is in dirt and it's in soil, so you're not wrong. But compost is special, and compost has the ability to make amazing things grow. But here's my other question for you, and I'm just going to grab my other little prop here. I'm curious if any of you know what makes compost. Anyone have an idea? Anyone? Here, I'll ask first someone who hasn't said yet.
Rotten food and stuff.
Rotten food and stuff. Yeah, in fact, that was fast. I didn't think you guys would be that fast with it. But yeah, so, and if anyone's curious, I actually brought my own compost from my own kitchen. Very exciting, I know. If anyone want to dare to see what actually is in here? Anyone have, can you tell what's in here?
Things.
Don't look too closely. Doesn't look very pretty. Yeah, okay, what do you see in here?
Banana peels and dirty flowers.
Yeah, banana peels and dirty flowers. Those are some of the things that make compost. It's the scraps. It's our waste from the kitchen. So I'm going to put this down. Now, we're not just... So what happens then is those scraps, nature itself, we just sang about nature, nature turns them into compost, and compost makes more plants grow. It's pretty cool. But today, we're not just talking about plants. We're talking about us, humans. And let's imagine for a moment that rather than just thinking about compost and how that makes gardens grow, we're talking about our lives, the gardens of our lives, which have all kinds of plants, some of which are growing really well and flourishing and blooming and making things beautiful, and some which maybe aren't going quite the way we wanted them to. Maybe a plant isn't flourishing, or maybe we tried to build a birdhouse for our garden, but it fell apart. Or maybe there's a raspberry bush that had all kinds of wonderful berries on it that you were very excited to eat, and a flock of birds comes and eats them all up. Or maybe in the garden of our life, you studied hard for a test, but you didn't do well anyway. Or maybe you tried out for the soccer team and you didn't make it. Those are the failures and setbacks of our lives that then can become scraps for our compost. Because here's the secret: that compost can actually make better things happen in our lives. Just as compost helps plants grow, the scraps and failures of our lives can help us grow too. And I'll give you some examples. So let's say you're at home and you're building some kind of tower with blocks, and it falls down. And then you build it again and it falls down, and you build it again and it falls down. Has anyone had any kind of experience like that ever in your life? Yeah, I certainly have. And you want to give up. You're frustrated. You don't want to do it anymore. But let's just say you decide to ask someone for help instead. And who might you ask for help in a situation like that? Sometimes we don't always immediately want to ask for help, but it can be good to think about it in advance. So who might you ask for help?
Parents.
Your parents.
If you're at school, you could ask a teacher.
You could ask a teacher.
Your mama.
Your mama. Yeah, and when you do that, then you maybe rebuild that tower, and it's stronger than before, and it stands up, and you've learned how to work with someone on something. And so that first mistake actually ended up making things better. Or here's another example. Let's say you're trying to make a new friend, but it hits the rocks. There's a misunderstanding. Your feelings are hurt, their feelings are hurt. You want to walk away. But maybe there's something else you can do instead of walking away. Like, what else might you do instead of walking away? Any ideas? Any ideas, Zoe?
Talk about it.
You could talk about it. I love that. Yeah, and one more.
Tell them to be kinder.
Tell them to be kinder. Yeah, you could tell them to be kinder. You could listen to them. You could try to find common ground. And even though those original feelings can be kind of smelly, like the compost in that bin, which I won't leave there, by the way, so you don't have to look at it the whole time, but then they can transform into something else. And that's what I want you to take away from our time this morning, because we all have setbacks and failures and times when things don't work out. But if we remember the compost, if we remember that those failures can be transformed into something maybe better, maybe stronger, then we can help make a beautiful garden grow. And sometimes when we learn from things ourselves, we can then help others learn from them too, so we can help others with their composting process. So on that note, I would like to invite you to your religious education classes, and we will sing you out together.
It is now time for the offering, time for us to support all the good work and programs of this church and of this community. During the month of March, our collection is shared with Joan G. Lovering Health Center. And as it says on the opening of their website, it is the passion of Lovering Health to honor, respect, and advocate for the right of everyone to maintain freedom and choices regarding their own sexual and reproductive health. You can learn more about their services offered by visiting their website. There are many ways to give, here in person today, by mail, by the internet. You can go to our website at southchurch-uu.org for more information. Please give as you are able. Your donation helps us to live our mission. The offering will now be gratefully received.
invite us all now into a time of meditation or prayer. So notice your body. Notice where you're sitting. Feel the space that surrounds you. Feel your feet on the floor. Listen to your breath. This is a prayer poem called Pry Me Off Dead Center, and it's by Ted Loder. O persistent God, deliver me from assuming your mercy is gentle. Pressure me that I may grow more human, not through the lessening of my struggles, but through an expansion of them that will undam me and unbury my gifts. Deepen my heart until I learn to share it and myself openly, and my needs honestly. Sharpen my fears until I name them and release the power I have locked in them and they in me. Accentuate my confusion until I shed those grandiose expectations that divert me from the small, glad gifts of the now and the here and the me. Expose my shame wherever it shivers, crouched behind the curtains of propriety until I can laugh at last through my common frailties and failures, laugh my way toward becoming whole. Deliver me from just going through the motions and wasting everything I have, which is today, a chance, a choice, my creativity, your call. Oh, persistent God, let how much it all matters pry me off dead center. So if I am moved inside to tears or sighs or screams or smiles or dreams, they will be real. And I will be in touch with who I am and who you are and who my siblings are. Amen. This place holds us. If you are struggling, if you are celebrating, if you are feeling lonely, or if you are needing someone to tell some incredible news to, we are here. If you need us, you can contact Reverend Ellen or myself or any of those incredible pastoral associates. You are not alone out there. This community holds us. I'm going to invite anyone, as we listen to some music, who would like to light a candle for a joy or a concern in your life to come forward now and do so. You can come down the side aisles and back up the center. keep thinking about Terry Karnan and transformation, about how much transformation you've witnessed in this place. Like, it's so neat to think about the flow of just this building. That picture on the front of the order of service, the rock carved out by the water. South Church is like a rock that's been carved out by so much water, but you can't see it physically. And yet there are so many people in this room that hold those carvings, those experiences, and those memories. It's really powerful to think about. Anyway, apparently, the reason blueberries appear blue has to do with the nanostructure of their waxy coat. Their coat, that waxy layer on the outside of a blueberry, is what makes it look blue. The berry itself actually isn't blue at all. That waxy coat, which to us makes it look blue, also reflects UV light that can be seen by birds, but not by us. And I only just learned this a few weeks ago. It immediately made sense. If you think about a handful of blueberries and those dark spots that appear, and the next time you hold one, try wiping away that blue coat. One quick article from the Science News, and now I look at blueberries differently. It is hard to unsee something once we've seen it. We can go merrily along for years, oblivious to something in our path, but one day it gets pointed out and we never walk that path in the same way again. And we can appreciate such unfolding awareness sometimes. I like looking at blueberries in a new way, wondering how the waxy nanostructure came to be. I welcome shifting from seeing wolves as the menacing threat in childhood fairy tales to seeing them as a critical part of the natural world, essential to transforming a struggling ecosystem. It's a delight to know that rotting leaves and kitchen waste are the raw materials that will nourish next year's backyard tomatoes. There are limitless opportunities to witness transformation in this world, to experience transformation ourselves, to change how we see everything around us, and that is really important to remember. But it's also important to acknowledge that it isn't always easy to welcome transformation. Sometimes it exists amidst pain and loss, and we don't even have the strength to look for it. Sometimes we're comfortable with the perspectives that we've grown familiar with, and we resent opportunities for transformation because it asks something of us that we may not be ready to give. We don't always want to change how we walk along in this world. Discovering something we didn't know before can leave us feeling guilt or shame, and people don't all experience transformative moments at the same time. So when you find yourself looking at something in a new way, differently from your family or your friends or your community, that new awareness itself can be isolating and lonely. You might just choose to ignore what you've figured out because you want the company more. I was taught as a child to keep my struggles private. I suspect many of us were taught that. I don't remember being taught to do that, but I learned it somewhere. When things get hard, I either look for someone in the struggle who needs my care so I can ignore my own needs, or if it's just me dealing with the hard thing, I tend to turn into myself, to withdraw from friends and family. But just as I learned that behavior way back in my life somewhere, at some point I also started realizing that it was not healthy. It It was keeping me from truly developing loving relationships with people, because those loving relationships require reciprocity. We can't just give, we also have to take. We can't just take, we also have to give. For a good stretch now, I've slowly gotten better at reaching out to trusted people in my life when I'm hurting. It's still an emerging practice, but I'm working on it. I was thinking about that just last week during a conversation I was having with a colleague, a fellow religious educator in another congregation. She was sharing a project that she was working on, a great project. Part of it involved the kids making a poster that said, "We believe in helping others." And it just struck me that there was something missing on that poster. Of course, we believe in helping others. But I wanted to just interrupt her story for a second and suggest that she add also, we believe in asking for help. Funny little moments that change how we look at something or see something that had been missing. Notice something that just needs a little adjustment. And every one of those little moments add up. Our faith in our own capacity for transformation grows as we experience it, and it grows as we witness it in one another. We teach each other and ourselves when we let ourselves fall apart in someone's arms and they don't let go. When a heartbreak over time becomes in us a capacity for deep compassion. When we make a mistake and learn from it and do better. When we uncover our own blind spots and fix what's missing. And Unitarian Universalists, this faith, this congregation, is a faith in transformation. We commit to adapt to the changing world, it says in the new Article 2 language. We commit to adapt to the changing world. Whew. That is no small thing. The world is changing fast, and none of us can do the work being asked of us, adapting to that changing world. We cannot do that work alone. Communities of transformation are essential. And that's what we are, I hope, I think, I feel, I see. A community of transformation. There are tools that can help us. I have one to share with you today. I learned this from a book that was recommended to me from a friend of mine at the UUSC, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. Their staff were reading this book all together. It's called Hospicing Modernity. If you're going to read it, talk to me. I have just a few things to share with you about it. Anyway, I picked it up, finding the title interesting and being curious what the folks at the UUSC were reading together. And it contains quite a few tools for this work of adapting to a changing world. But one of them I found particularly resonant with this topic of transformation. The tool relates to how we think about education. So the author, Vanessa Machado de Oliveira, posits that when we talk about education, we have come to expect only one type of education, the kind that gives us a sense of mastery, a form of education that is, she notes, transactional. It gives us predictable learning outcomes, and it's based on the transfer of content and the development of competencies and skills that can enhance a person's efficiency and value. We forget, she says, that education is much broader than schooling. It spans the whole length and width of life. Education happens constantly as we process and internalize what emerges from our interactions with the world in and around us. So, she says, instead of thinking of just one kind of education, that mastery education, she invites us to think about two. mastery education, and depth education. And I kind of picture them as polarities. Mastery education promises to give learners voice and choice. It creates a menu of valuable, easily digestible information and experiences for learners' consumption. It treats learners as customers and keeps them comfortable and hopeful and motivated and validated and self-satisfied. Depth education is a mode of engagement designed to prompt us to dig deeper and to relate wider, to disinvest in harmful desires, to activate accountability and responsibility before our will, and to become open to being taught by the world in unexpected ways. Depth education focuses on complexities and paradoxes. It invites us all to sit with difficulties, the good, the bad, the broken, and the messed up. When effectively mobilized, depth education feels disarming, scales down the importance of the ego, and expands the possibility of relationships. She says, if mastery education can be associated with filling a cup, depth education is about transforming the cup to an onion and allowing ourselves to experience the pain and joy of peeling its layers. If mastery education encourages learners to voice their opinions and their aspirations and their likes and their dislikes, depth education encourages learners to step back, to observe with skepticism one's own personal narratives, to observe with skepticism our desires and our identifications and disidentifications. While mastery education instigates the performance of learners' identities and self-expression, depth education assumes we are unreliable narrators of our own experiences. It invites an inquiry into the ways we could be stuck, what we resist or try to run away from, and how different modes of knowing and being known mobilize different relationships, different possibilities, and different transformations in the world. I know that's a lot of words, but mastery education, you learn what you're told. In depth education, you pick apart what you've learned. In mastery education, you pursue your interests. In depth education, you first consider how your interests impact the world. In mastery education, you share what you know. In depth education, you question what you know. This reminds me of a conversation among a group of us here at South Church. We've been studying Indigenous history as we get ready for a trip to the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. We had a discussion last month where we reflected on the Anishinaabe creation story, which is written at the beginning of the book Becoming Kin by Patty Quarrick. In the story, Earth is understood to be a woman, our mother, who preceded man. From her come all living things, and water is her blood. After all things were made, the Creator takes 4 parts of Mother Earth and blows into them. And with this breath, man is created. Humans are the last form of life to be created, lowered down onto the earth, the least and neediest of all creation. This is a lesson in humility. We are the least of all creation. Creation existed without us, and despite everything we have done to her, she continues to provide for us. Imagine if that was the story that Europeans had been taught, if the doctrine of discovery had never been written. Imagine if the mastery education of the 16th century Christians centered less centered lessons in humility, and a sense of belonging to the earth, not the earth belonging to us. Imagine if there had been no manifest destiny, if Europeans arrived in the New World with respect for the people who already lived here, if they had had a true interest in learning from them and living among them. Depth education invites us to examine the ideas that live within our assumptions and perceptions, because humility and a sense of belonging to the earth are not what most of us have been taught. They were not the values upon which this country was founded. And Vanessa Machado de Oliveira says, such reflection can help to reactivate exiled capacities and dispositions so we can face the extremely challenging task of moving away from human exceptionalism, of moving away from unrestricted autonomy, and moving away from infinite entitlement, and instead to start moving toward accountable autonomy and unconditional responsibility before will. Imagining that we could shift in such a significant way, that feels like a big step for us. But what other options do we have? This community, this place, is a place to try. This is why I give so much energy to this place, because we need spaces that foster transformation. And we are growing that kind of space here. We are invited to think about it in the tiny moments and in the big imaginings. Author Michelle Alexander wrote a powerful article in The Nation this month. It's titled, "Only Revolutionary Love Can Save Us Now." In her closing paragraph, she says, 2024 just might be the year that changes everything. But the way that things change is ultimately up to us. It can be a time of world war, of genocide, of the collapse of democracy and the loss of hope. Or it can be a time of great awakening, when we break our silences and act on our greater courage and greater solidarity. A time when the existential threats that we are facing finally lead us to embrace humanity and perhaps even glimpse the spark of divinity that exists within each of us and all creation. Something new is in the air, she says, and it's not just dread. In virtually every community, people are coming together in remarkable ways, learning about each other's histories of struggle, marching together, co-creating with each other, planting seeds of something new together, marking another way possible, a way out of no way. People are casting off old ways of seeing the world and being in the world, and recognizing that everything depends on us rising to the challenges of our times, speaking unpopular truths, and acting with courage and with love and with the fierce urgency of now. In the words of Grace Lee Boggs, these are the times that grow our souls. Let this be the moment we commit ourselves to doing precisely that. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 108.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
I'm going to invite you, if you wish, to stand and reach out to the shoulder of someone near you. This benediction is words from Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams, who says, "There is something dying in our society, in our culture, and there is something dying in us individually. And what is dying, I think, is the willingness to be in denial. And that is extraordinary. It's always been happening. And when it happens in enough of us, in a short enough period of time, at the same time, then you have a tipping point, and the culture begins to shift." May it be so. always was, but I didn't